Usher, Usher, Usher did Club Shay Shay.
Yep.
Now, I just want to point out the fact that this interview is very old. And the reason I'm pointing it out is because some of the things that they talked about
Yeah.
make it apparent that it's very old. I don't have a problem with the fact that the interview was filmed months ago. I don't
Well,
care
tell
about
them what you
that.
do got a problem with.
But I do have a problem with the fact that they tried to mislead us and make us think that it was new. Like Usher's in Vegas preparing for the Super Bowl and he popped and he sat down with Shannon Sharp. That's not what happened.
Right.
That's not what happened at all. And that kind of annoyed me because it was just like, but then edit it properly.
Uh,
It wasn't edited to make to further that point. So then why even make it seem like no, it's Usher. No one cares that you interviewed him a few months ago versus 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. It's
right.
smart of you to drop the interview 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, that's for sure.
Right.
But I just didn't get that, and I was just like, that's kind of corny to me. Like, don't
It's marketing.
I don't. You're over there talking about something that's about to happen in November, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's February.
Right.
Like, what are we what are we doing here? So that was kind of annoying, but outside of that, they'll say I get caught up on the details, and that's fine. Outside of that,
I mean, I peeped
uh,
it too, if we're being honest. I mean, I started watching it before you, and I texted you and was like, I could tell this is old. Like, it didn't
yeah,
take long. I think I was 10 or 15 minutes in, and I was like, this is not from this month. This is from a couple months ago. You could tell.
and some of the pieces could have just been edited so that
Yeah.
the time references were taken out, and it
Right.
still would have been the same interview. So other than maybe one question.
Yeah.
But outside of that, they could have just edited it down to actually, look like what they tried to make it look like. So I don't
Yeah.
know. And maybe that's just my podcaster brain being like, this is dumb and you could fix this. And this looks like somebody was being lazy.
That was the
Um,
production side of things.
right. Also, making it seem one way when it's another way is just low hanging fruit. It's like it doesn't matter. Off of the heels of the Cat Williams interview, okay, now I'm really in my podcaster brain. Off of the heels of the Cat Williams interview and the 21 Savage interview.
Tech problems. Um, you were saying on the heels of the Cat Williams interview, and I was saying and the 21 Savage interview because that also has been released and doing well. Not as well as Cat Williams, but also doing well.
Right. But yeah, on the heels of that, it's just kind of like you had the momentum and Usher is headlining the Super Bowl halftime show. You really didn't need to lie about when you did this interview. Or not lie, but you really didn't need to try to mislead people in order to get them to watch it. People were probably gonna watch it. Maybe not the 40 million people who watched the Cat Williams interview,
All right.
but
50 million.
no one no one's going to get 50 million views every single time they post an interview. That's just
Numbers fluctuate
the number,
depending on many factors.
right? And the numbers simply just don't look like that. Like that what happened was uncommon. It was amazing,
Right.
but it was uncommon.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know. I That was weird to me, but um, like I said, maybe I'm getting too caught up in the details. Did I enjoy the interview itself? Sure, because I love Usher. Um, I don't care for all of the questions that Shannon Sharp asks people. Some of the questions to me are like nothing questions.
I mean, at least this time
And
he didn't ask him about random nothingness. Like, he didn't ask him about current events like he did with Cat Williams.
yeah, but I also feel like he asks. Sometimes it feels like he's fanboying a little bit, and so the questions to me are not like I don't think he's a hard-hitting journalist that's gonna ask
Okay.
super, you know, investigative questions, but I think sometimes the questions are a little. I don't want to. I feel bad, but I feel like sometimes the questions are a little juvenile, and I don't know. Sometimes, I guess sometimes it's okay because it's like the things that maybe the fans, as fans, we wanted to know about that person, but
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. I enjoyed more, hearing Usher talk about certain things. I mean, that's just my top line. We could get into specifics, but what did you think of the interview?
I have the opposite take. I thought Shannon Sharp did much better with some of these questions than some other
Hmm.
interviews. He asked him
Okay.
about the transition from child star to adult star. He asked him
He said,
about
Hi.
"Hey, again,
Woo wee! What a Friday.
longest Friday in the history of Fridays, and
My
it just
lord.
keeps getting longer."
Now listen, I tried to use other devices and do other things to enhance the audio for everybody, but it's not working out. I will over the
Mhm.
weekend try to figure some things out, but for now we're gonna have to stick with this. So sorry,
It's
but
fine.
this is how it's gonna have to be. I was saying I have the opposite take. I feel like he asked him better questions than he's asked some other people. I watch Club
I
Shay
believe
Shay.
that.
I watch Club Shay Shay pretty often at this point, and I think that he asked him about like going the transition from being a child star to being an adult star. He asked him about like what was his favorite album. He asked him about Confessions.
He did. He did. He did. I had to get real close to the camera because he did ask him what his favorite album was. He did ask him what his favorite album was. I was waiting for that to come up. I thought that would come up later, but it's coming up now.
You want to
What did
tell
he
the people
say?
why you're so excited?
What did he say? Because he said 8701, okay? And I have been saying this to you people for years, years, and no one will accept that 8701 is a phenomenal body of work. Just because all of y'all were in your feelings with Confessions, y'all can't detach yourselves from Confessions long enough to realize that 8701 is a supreme album. It is a spectacular Usher album. Chef's kiss. Like, and the fact that Usher said it himself, vindicated. So sorry, please continue.
But when he asked him right after that, all right, if you could only do one album, if you can only perform one album for the next year, what album are you going with?
That's a
He
different
said,
question.
he said, Confessions, hands down.
That
There's nothing that comes close.
that's a different question. When Usher talked about 8701, he talked about it as a body of work. He wasn't talking about performing the album. Very different. And there's a reason why I would think that Usher loves to perform Confessions. It's because all you people think it is his best album. Why wouldn't you want to perform it when everybody loves it? Duh.
Okay, but
They'll get me in the comments. They'll talk about how I don't know music and they'll ask why I'm speaking. I speak because this is partly my podcast. But, like, half mine. But,
that's mine.
right, because, I
That's
don't
funny.
understand the question. But no, I have been saying for years, and I never said I don't like, Because no one understands this. No one understands liking something more than something else, and no one understands saying something, giving a negative critique about a piece of something. Everyone thinks that you mean that you hate something else. I don't hate Confessions. I don't think Confessions is a bad album. I think Confessions is a great album. That is not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is when that man said body of work, 8701, and I was like, I've been telling them, Ush. I've been telling them. I've been telling them, my guy, that's why me
But
and you
nobody
are
thinks, I've
here.
never met anyone who thinks 8701 is a bad album. People just
When
feel that Confessions is better. It's the fan favorite.
it's the fan favorite because all y'all was crying with him. It's just
Sometimes, sometimes
relatable
you gotta
content.
confess something.
Relatable content. It's totally
Right.
relatable, and I totally understand why people like it. And again, it is a great album. But whenever I have to have this conversation, people do shit on 8701. I could never
Okay.
have a conversation and say that both of those albums are great. People always like, no, no. I'm like, have you listened to it to its entirety? Have you really listened to it to try to appreciate it? There's like one song on 8701 where it's like, okay, Usher, we maybe didn't need that. But other than that, and I feel like every album is allowed one, especially back then when the albums were much longer. But
Yes.
I just felt really good inside, and I just wanted to point it out because to hear it out of his mouth, it made me feel good. It did. And yes, he said he would like to perform Confessions, but if I was an artist and I knew that everybody loved this one particular album, I would probably get excited because what I've learned about Usher is that Usher loves to feed off of that excitement, as I'm sure a lot of artists do. Usher
Yes.
loves when the crowd wants to sing along with him. He loves engaging with his audience. So of course, if the favorite album of the audience is Confessions, that's probably his favorite one to perform just because he's probably getting the most energy out of the people who are watching the show. But that, whatever.
Nigga
Whatever.
said, but whatever.
I will take any Usher
Unbelievable.
album any day of the week. I will listen to Usher all day and I will listen to all of the albums. I'm not it's not exclusionary over here. It's just that I feel like it doesn't get the respect that it deserves. That's it.
Got it. I think we all got it.
Okay.
You, you let us have it.
Continue, my friend. I
I didn't
did.
even, I didn't even remember. Yeah, he asked him better questions than he's asked some other people.
Mhm.
Um, I thought they were better questions. He asked a lot of stuff. I mean, sure, there's always moments that you're like, hey, why'd you ask that? Who cares about that? Like, no, we didn't need to know Shannon Sharp saw him singing in the mall as a little kid. I mean, but
And that wasn't even one that kind of annoyed me, but it was
I mean, you sitting next to Usher. What you going? I mean, you're gonna have those kind of moments. Like, if
of
Jay-Z decide
course.
he's gonna come up here and let us ask him questions, I'm definitely gonna have some of those moments. So, I
Mhm.
mean, I get it.
I'm,
Um,
it's not wrong.
no, it's not wrong.
It's just
Uh,
yeah.
and I mean, I'm an Usher fan. I won't say I'm a stan, but I'm an Usher fan, and I learned stuff from this interview that I didn't know.
Me
I didn't
too.
know I didn't know about the label he has with these humongous executives, and I didn't know underneath that he had a subsidiary company that he's calling independent. That's cute, but anyway, another conversation for another time. People use the word
Right.
independent so loosely in this era that it's like just don't use it.
Yeah.
Just don't
No,
use
I
it.
understand. I when I heard that, I thought to myself, "Is okay. That's interesting. How does that work? Well, he also said L.A.
Because
Reid's
okay,
name, and
you're
I was like,
saying
how independent can you be with L.A. Reid?
listen to the two people he said are the co-owners of the parent label, quote unquote, that he
Uh-huh.
signed himself to. You think you're like it's ridiculous. Like, of course, L.A. Reid and what's his name, Steve,
I don't remember.
whatever. They're two monster executives, is the point. And these two
Hmm.
monster executives have have a label with you. You signed yourself to that label. You think they're not going to do everything in their power to make you have the biggest album possible? Of course they are. It's not independent. Like, come on, son. Stop. It's on some
Yeah.
technicality shit. Like, well, technically, I'm not signed to
Hmm.
that label. I'm signed
Right.
to a subsidiary. Like, all right, come on, son. Like,
Yeah.
the niggas writing the checks with you are gonna make sure that you get the big push that your
Right.
album deserves, which is deserving. I'm not knocking that. But let's not just say we're independent when
Hmm.
we got two of the biggest people in music history as your co-owners of the quote unquote parent label. Whatever. I didn't know he was a part owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I didn't
I
know that
didn't
either.
know I didn't know a lot of stuff. So I thought this was really interesting. I have the, like I said, I have the complete opposite take. I thought the questions were good. You could see Usher getting in his like flashback mode in certain moments. You could see Usher like really sitting and thinking about certain questions. Even when he asked him certain stuff, he's like, bro, I don't even know what to say to that. Like, we got to see
Well,
Usher as Daddy, and I put quotations because we all know one of his favorite songs to perform is Daddy's Home.
well,
Uh,
and you know he will be performing that at the Super Bowl because
yeah,
you know
of
it's
course,
just
of
he loves
course.
that song. I would be
Yeah, but
shocked if we don't hear it.
we got to see his parental views, and we got to see how
I
his
love that.
mentality works as a parent, and as a parent who is trying to navigate certain things with his kids.
Yeah.
We got to see him be vulnerable. Like you could tell when he said, "Yo, sometimes they don't want me to come to recitals, and like that hurts. I want to be there, but I have to
I
also respect them." And so
know.
that was dope. I mean, I never saw any of those things from Usher. So I think the opposite. I think Shannon Sharp did a good job. I think he was able to get things out of Usher that we have not seen from other people. Usher was on Angie, and Angie is one of the best interviewers of our culture, of our time. And
Hmm.
he didn't say half of that stuff up there. This was lots of new information that we didn't hear even on Angie. So I'm not comparing. This is not apples to apples. Angie
But
and Shannon Sharp are two different type of interviewers, two different types of media moguls. I mean, and I don't even, I'm mogul maybe shouldn't even be the word, but I'm only saying interview to interview. This was a more informative interview if we're going to compare the interviews in that sense.
okay, but see, you're doing what I just said because because I didn't say that it was a bad interview. I just said some of the questions I
No, and I
felt were a
disagree.
certain
I don't
way.
think that.
I think that some of the questions were fine and we got a lot out of him, but again, I'm talking about part of it, not the whole thing. So I didn't never said that it was a bad interview. I don't think it was a bad interview. In fact, I have lots of notes to show that like I don't think it's a bad interview. I just think that Shannon Sharp is his interview style is a little bit different. And I think that's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But yeah, for me, some of the questions were like, okay. What I did enjoy, though, I agree with you. That's the number one thing that I have on my list is that I loved hearing him talk about being a dad. And I think that part of the conversation really humanized him. You know, when we look at certain people, we think that they are superhuman, right? Like
Right.
there's these entities and these huge superstars, and we forget that they're parents too. Yeah, I think that it was great to hear him talk about those experiences and um how his kids just see him as dad, which I think a lot of celebrities talk about that, where their kids are just like, that's, I mean, I guess I know you're famous, but like, what's it to me? You know,
Right.
like, so, I thought that was really, cool that he was able to speak to that. I also just think that, like, you could tell that Usher has been in the game for a long time. You could tell that he's seasoned. You could tell that he's um he's very much deep into his manhood. And by manhood I just mean as as an adult, as a father, as an artist, as a man. He just seems so comfortable in himself. And with his experiences, um he talks about being a businessman. He talks about trying things that he knows may fail, but still
Right.
trying them and seeing what works. Um, and um, he also he also talks about just enjoying himself in this period in his life. I've said this a million times, I'm sure by now, but that's something that he's been talking a lot about since he did his residency in Vegas.
Yeah.
Since the Super Bowl stuff has come up, he's like, I'm just, it made it, yes, I'm working, and you can see that I'm working, but I'm chilling. Like, this is my time to enjoy,
Right.
um, what I've done, who I've become. And I think that's pretty cool because, he looks, I think I said to you too off pod, he looks light. He feels light. Like there's no burden there. There's
Yeah.
no expectation. And he even said he didn't put that on himself either throughout the years.
Hmm.
He made sure that he stayed grounded, and that maybe, yes, maybe for many people confessions was the peak, right? But he was never chasing that peak. He was always just, you know creating and doing what he loves, and working.
Right.
So um I thought it was great. I thought there were a lot of great takeaways. I agree with you. I learned things that I did not know. I didn't know the thing about the Cleveland Cavaliers either. Um and that happened so long ago. Also, that's
Mhm.
not a new thing. That happened he said around 2005 when LeBron was joining the league. So, um yeah, I thought it was great. I don't want to make it seem like I didn't think it was good. I just, that was just my little note, my little production note, that I felt like some of the questions could have been skipped. But for the most part, I think it was a robust interview. Um, I think he was able to go deep. I also think there is value in Shannon Sharp's style because Shannon Sharp lets people talk. And everybody knows that's the game. If you shut up long enough, people will talk way longer than maybe they thought they would.
Right.
And they'll divulge way more than maybe they expected to, or maybe
Yep.
you expected them to. So
Right.
I think that Shannon Sharp is really good at that. Um, I haven't seen all of his interviews, and to be honest, I haven't seen too many of them, but that is something I've noticed in the ones that I have seen. Um, he gives people. I also think he's created a safe space for men specifically. Um, and I think that's clear. I think when they walk into his space, they feel comfortable, they feel relaxed, they're drinking, they're whatever, and it's like they're able to kind of kick it a little bit more than, going into CBS studios and sitting down with Gayle King. It's a very
Right.
different experience. Like, I'm sure if
Yes,
Jay-Z sat down with Shannon Sharp, it would be very different than him sitting down with Gayle King.
I agree.
We'd probably get a little bit more than, the fact that they used to call Blue Blueberry. So, which was a cute story,
So
don't
we
get me
probably get an
wrong. But,
actual interview,
right. But,
not a fluff piece.
right. Not a fluff piece. But yeah, so I also thought that quote he said he was quoting T.I. when he said, "If you live for the applause, you'll die by the booze." And I was like, I get that. I understand that. And
Yeah,
if you wanna sustain your career and still stay grounded, then that makes a whole lot of sense. And Usher's been doing this 30 years.
yep.
Yeah, 30 years. So that's pretty powerful. I'm probably gonna be moved by anything Usher does. I'll be very honest with you, because that's just, I love Usher. I think everyone knows. But yeah, I thought it was great. I learned some things I didn't know, so you know, it was good.
Sweet.